All right, guys. Hey, welcome to our Monday sales call. I'm excited to be able to have Brenda Garnica with us. We've had a chance to kind of know each other over the past couple months, working closely, her, Daniel, Jordan, and watching the growth of their business over the last few months. And it's really, really awesome because you can tell they have the skill set already. But to be able to watch them move up in the production levels is really, really awesome. And the best part is she's pregnant while doing this. So like I look at it going, we just put up, week four May numbers. Brenda's over 25,000 issue paid for the month of May without the last week coming out. And she's like 22 weeks pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, what's your excuse? So, Brenda, thanks for hopping on. For those that don't know your true story, full story, can you kind of share with them how, what you did prior? How'd you find insurance? If you found us first or not, like all that good stuff.
Right. Thank you for having me on. Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Brenda Garnica. I actually never thought about even doing life insurance. I was in the wholesale shoe industry. That's how we can relay a lot.
Really? Me, my
Yeah,
parents too. No
big
way.
industry. I did that for
Yeah.
like almost 9 years. But it wasn't anything compared to like sales here. I worked with a lot of e-commerce. They know what they wanted. I would take the shoes to them and, present the shoes. They'll tell me I want XYZ boxes on this style, like Fashion Nova,
Yep.
big corporate companies. And then I decided to leave that and I started working with PG&E Edison. When COVID happened, I got let go and I freaked out because I'm like, I've always worked. I'm a hardworking mom. Daniel was full-time barbering, and at that time he was kind of getting his feet wet in the real estate industry. He got licensed and he was the only provider. So one of our mutual friends was like, "Hey, did you ever think about doing life insurance?" Kind of came about that. But prior to that, one of his clients was like, "Oh, I have my own like life insurance company in Irwindale." I went in super blinded, thinking, just to check it out, whatever. I go in there and I'm pretty sure you guys know who I'm talking about. It's an MLM with like big old trophies. But the name was like a DBA name, so I had no idea what it was until I got there and I was like, okay. I took my exam, and then after that, that's when we ended up going to FFL company in Ontario. Met Jordan, met everybody else. We got the whole pitch of the business presented. I was already licensed, got my NPN, and then we decided to move forward with FFL. So I was super excited because when I found out about this opportunity with Family First, it was very different from the MLM,
Right.
right? They were charging us for Zoom, all this crazy stuff. And I was like,
Wait, wait, wait. Say that again. They were what?
gonna charge me for Zoom. So when you register, it's like a $25 fee for Zoom.
Wait, what do
Yeah,
you mean by that? Like charge you
like
for Zoom how?
the other MLM
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To do what
like
on Zoom?
presentations.
Wow.
Yeah, and I told Daniel about it. So when I decided not to move forward, I had to like contact them and like log in and tell them like I'm not moving forward with you guys, even though I took your exam and like I passed. They were like, okay. And it was really awkward, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to move forward and decided to go with FFL for so many good reasons, not just the comp, but the way they pitched everything. It was just a no-brainer, right? Like, how would I not take this opportunity?
Right.
That's how I came about finding out about Family First and insurance in general.
I love it. So you go through, you're working out of an office initially. That was kind of rough. And then we kind of met and you and Daniel and Jordan do your own thing, which is awesome. You guys are crushing it. And so what has happened too is like watching your production skyrocket, right? And we were talking when we were having lunch. You're like, oh man, like in the beginning, it was rough. Like I was getting cussed out by these vets and they make me cry. And now it's hilarious because you can see in our Telegram, like Janelle's like, Brenda's going at it with the vet right now. You guys need to hop in. So, like, I want to talk about that because that's real. I've always shared that, like, yeah, Janelle, she's like, Brenda now makes vets cry. I've always talked about it saying this, like, when you're a new agent, what happens is like you think this is customer service. And so you're really, really nice. And because you are, they run all over you, right? Can you kind of talk about that? Like when you got started, like you bought some vet leads, you were calling them, and then that was brutal, right? And then now you've kind of are like, you know what? I'm sick of them talking to me that way. Can you kind of talk about that?
Of course. So when I first started, I want to say it was like my second or third month in. This is like brand new. Everybody was working veteran leads, and Daniel's like, I just closed three. You should try them out. And I was like, are you sure? And I was like, okay, I'll buy a batch. I bought a batch, and I was at the time working part-time from home. And I called him and I started crying because I was like, they're so rude and mean and they're yelling at me. What do you mean? You said they were going to be pretty smooth. And he was like, no, just keep trying. Like, how are you like even approaching them? And I'm like, I'm just reading the script. And he's like, okay, role play. So we would role play. And he was like, you're too nice. Like, you're too customer service. Like, you can't ask them for permission. Like, be direct. Like, if you're talking to the boys. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. Like, if you're mad at Maddox and Blake and they piss you off, how are you with them? Like, be very direct and straightforward. And I was like, okay. And then now, so once I did that, the whole entire pitch changed for me because I was like, my brother is a sergeant in the army. So the way he is very direct and his personality is like kind of scary, like almost. So he was like, also see it as like, you're their sergeant. You're telling them what to do and what they qualify for and guide them along the process. And I was like, okay. So once I kind of like got the idea of like, this is how it's going to work for me, it did. Like, I just implemented that. And I mean, it took probably like a few presentations, but I got it. Like once I figured out, okay, this is how it's gonna work, and I started seeing like my production grow, that's when I was like, okay, like I found my niche. Like this is what I like to do. And to me, it was super as it got as I got better, it got super easier because I wasn't there was times where I would just kind of flow it. At the time I had a Tesla, I would be charged. I'm kind of like I mean, like I would be charging my car, I'll be closing deals, and I'm like, I did not just do that. This is amazing. Like I love this industry. Like I'm not just helping people, but I'm also getting paid generously helping others be
Right.
protected.
Can you kind of talk about that? So like I want to go script training, right? Like we're in a sales call. So you have a script and you're reading it and you're like, it's not working,
Mhm.
right? This is, by the way, why I hate scripts because you don't have tone in a script, right? Because they're just words on a piece of paper. And not only that, like everybody talks differently. You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean? So like you have a script, you're reading through it, and then Daniel's like, you're too nice. Like, what changes did you make? I know you're like be more direct, but like what actual changes? Because like new agents are like, all right, be direct. What does that mean? Like what things did you do differently in your script to be able to have the result where you started selling a lot more?
Right. So before I feel like I would just kind of read in. I sounded like a robot
Hmm.
because I was also so new, that I was like, my upline would be like, you sound like a robot. You have to just understand what you're gonna say to them, but also um, flow it, like add your own words to it.
Correct.
Because you have to sound authentic. You have to be just you, and that's what's going to help you grow. So I'm pretty much like right now, what I say is like, ring, Stephen. Stephen, this is Brenda. I'm an underwriter calling in regards to the request you submitted for the veterans insurance. Pause. Oh, yeah, yeah. Or some are like, no. But if they say yes, I'm like, okay, date of birth on file is 9/27, 1992. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Correct.
That's pretty damn close.
Boom, boom, boom. And then I'm like, okay, it looks like you are a retired veteran, correct?
Yep.
Correct. When you submitted this request, was this just to um what there's two different scripts I use, so it depends. But on one of them, I'll be like, when you submitted this, was this for burial or was this to leave additional money behind to your loved one, sir?
Burial.
Burial. Okay, perfect. In the event something happening to you, would that be are you gonna go more of like your traditional burial or cremation? A lot
Traditional
of
burial.
want to do traditional when it comes to vets. especially a lot of them are Christian too. They're like, no, I don't want to get
Right.
cremated. So you'll be like, okay, perfect. So typically for your traditional burials, about 15 to 20,000, depending on the state you're on. So as an underwriter, what I'm going to do for you, sir, is I'm going to go ahead and ask you a few medical questions to better understand your health. We'll then establish your budget. And if everything makes sense, we'll submit this application on your behalf. Okay. Does that sound fair?
That sounds fair.
Perfect. And then boom, straight to what I'm gonna do, those medical questions, first and foremost, are you a smoker, non-smoker? And go down the line of the medical part. As I'm going down, I already have typically America open with their date of birth, the state. I'm prepared to close him and move forward. Like I already established, I'm gonna go ahead and find you something.
Right.
Um, so that's the intro. If they say it's for me and spouse, I'll say I'll take care of you first, and then I'll go ahead and move forward with your wife. It'll be another 5, 10 minutes. Just because I have all your info from my portal, I'll just copy and paste it to the next. But I literally guide them along the way, every step of it, because I don't want them to feel lost in any way to give me back. Oh, I don't, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah. You sound, and here's the crazy part, like you're giving me direction that I can follow as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like some people you're like some people are too nice where, like you said, they're gonna be like, they're gonna run over you. And then some people are like too mean, you're like, I don't want to do that. Like you're like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Right. And that's why I'm like, how did it like that's what it sounds now. What did it used to sound before?
Oh, wow. Before, a lot of ums, a lot of pausing, very robot. I mean, I don't even know if I could replay it. It's it's so different. Um, so I feel like before I would just sound strictly, I would just read off the script, whatever everybody was reading. There
Right.
was no I wasn't relatable to it also because I was so new. And I'm sure a lot of new agents feel the same way. They're like, okay, I just read it. But the more you read it, the more you get comfortable with it. So I would just say I sounded terrible.
Right. Because here's what I'll share, right? Like it's funny watching Janelle sell some insurance because she went from having everyone's script. Like she was like, no, yours don't work. Let me go get Harold's. Okay, let me go get, Clinton Dennis's. Let me go get Matt Spalding's. Let me go get. So she has like 15 scripts in front of her desk. And I'm like, dude, none of that's gonna matter. Like at all. You know what I mean? And like now she has her version of her own script, but
Right.
she don't even look at it anymore because she understands the structure of the call. And what I'm trying to share with the guys on the like everybody on the call, especially if you're brand new, the script is like our safety blanket. It's there if we need it. We're not going line by line. We're like, we know when I call Brenda, like the first thing I'm going to say is who I am and where I'm calling from. That's it, right? It changes by the lead we call, it changes by, the type of insurance we're going to sell, but it's roughly the same, right? The second part of the call, we're going to verify the information. Just like she said, hey, got your date of birth as 9/27/92. Is that right? Have your addresses here, have your military branch is this, have the reason why you want an IUL is this. We're just verifying information. If you understand that, you don't need a script, right? And then you're like, all right, and this is what we're going to do. You're going to set the table and then go collect a financial inventory. I say all this because the quicker you understand why we're saying these things, not what we're saying, but why we're saying it, the easier this becomes, right? Like if I were to go, like I know there's a few Hall of Fame producers and top producers, like Hanan's on here, Dennis is on here, you're on, like I'm willing to bet money none of you guys read a script anymore. Like it's probably there, but y'all just need it for feel. Like if you ever get off track, you can go back and look at it, but you understand what you're saying. Does that make sense? That's the hardest part of the new transition for the brand new agent. People ask all the time, how do I go from 0 to 20? Easy. Understand that thing. Understand the script to its entirety. Why do we say these things? How we say it, the tone we say it with, how direct we can be, right? There's sometimes we push it a little too far. Sometimes we're too nice. What is the happy median? And once we understand that stuff, Brenda, then selling is easy. It's just rinse and repeat. Right. So I love that you become more direct. Can you share a few? examples where you had a client and you were like nice and they ran over you, and then like you learned your lesson, and then now you're more direct, and now you're in full control of the full conversation.
Right. In the beginning, I would always ask for permission, like, may I have your social? And Danny would always be like, why are you asking it like that? Read
Yeah.
this. And in the beginning, if you only have one computer, you're kind of trying to multitask everything. I was so shaky, by the way, and I'm sure everybody has done this in the beginning. I would get a client on the call and they'll answer super rude, and I'll just hang up on them. And I'm like, why did I just do that? Like, raise your hand if you've hung up on
I've
on a lead
absolutely done that.
before, because I've done it a few times in the beginning. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm buying leads to hang up on them. I'm crazy. Why am I doing that? So when I felt like, okay, I'm being too nice or I shouldn't be asking for permission, that's when I was like more direct. And I kind of got in a mindset too of starting it off with that energy of very direct. I can't be too nice in the beginning or too like, for example, you can relate with the client on the call. And if it gets too friendly, you kind of have to get back on script, get back on
Right.
script.
Right.
Because I noticed in the beginning, for example, let's say we're talking, Stephen, and we're having a conversation about the kids and whatnot, and then it kind of gets too friendly. It's such a quick way for them to be like, you know what, I have to talk to my wife towards the end. Be like, it's something I need to talk to her about because I'm not sure if, this is something she wants me to do. And it happened a lot in the beginning. I feel like now I'm very direct. Okay, well, the way I pitch it now, I do get a little friendly, but I know when to stop and get back on script.
How do
Um,
you like so like how do you do that? What word tracks do you use to reel them back in? That's what we used to say, right? Hey, you're getting too far off. Reel them back in. What word tracks do you use to bring them back when they're getting too far?
I mean, there's not really, I just kind of flow it. So, for example, let's say, I don't know, do you want to role play it? Kind of
Yeah,
float it there? Go ahead.
we'll talk about our kids.
Okay, the kids, blah, blah, blah. Your kids are in basketball, right, Steven?
Yeah, like last week, my daughter, she had this basketball game, and like, she hates playing, but she plays because of me. And it was crazy because like we had this party afterwards, and like she didn't want to go, but she went anyways, and like she ended up playing for like 3 4 hours. But like I think we're gonna probably put her in basketball next season. I don't know yet because I don't know if she really enjoys it or not. But
Right.
like, you know what I mean?
Steven,
Like,
I'd love to hear all about this and we can get to that, but let me go ahead and move forward. I'm going to send you that last 6-digit code to check your MIB report. Let me know when you receive that, okay?
got it.
I mean, it just kind of flows, right? It could be different or, you know,
The way you do it is like it's not rude. You're
it's
like, hey,
not
I'd
rude.
love to hear about that, but I need this damn piece of information to close the deal. Like, here's what I did. Like, let's say you were talking about the boys. I'm like, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, real quick, you're getting a 6-digit code right now from the insurance company. And then I'm like, what is that code? And you give it to me. And then what I do is I resume your story after you're done. You're like, oh, the code is, 312467. I'm like, wait, so what was he doing at baseball? I'm going to give you permission to resume the story.
Right,
And I'm like, dang, that's crazy. But I'm done with the app.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, these are little things that will help you guys because what a lot of people don't know how, and brand new, true story. When I was new in the home, hour and 45, every home. And people were like, why are you there so long? I was like, I don't know how to tell them to shut up. Which is why, if you watch our early part of the training, we would always say, don't build rapport. Because as a new agent, if you built rapport early on in the presentation, you couldn't get them back. Right. Which is why our training nowadays, we go, all right, yeah, build like simple, basic rapport, but build the rapport in the application when they're your client. Because now it's okay for you to talk to me for 45 minutes because we're doing a sale and the application takes forever to load, blah, 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 blah. But like I've seen a lot of people like early on in the app, like they're going, Brenda, hey Brenda, this is Steven, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, hey, how are you? Yeah, like, hey, when you were sent, like, okay. And I'm like, you're not gonna be able to reel that one back.
Hmm.
That's going to be an hour and a half phone call for sure. You know what I mean? And then you watch all these people, like I watched Hanan do it. I've watched like Jordan and a few other people. They're like 36 minutes app in hand. I'm like, yeah, there's not much rapport building when you're app in hand 36 minutes, right? Because you're getting to what you need from the client, right? And that's a nugget for those of you that are like, if you can't reel your client back, they're gonna fall in love with you. Matter of fact, like when I was brand new, Brenda, and like all my clients were like, we like you so much. If we were gonna buy insurance from anybody, it'd be from you. We're gonna have a family party this week, and you're more than welcome to come. But I gotta think about it.
Hmm.
Every one of them, they politely asked me to F off because I allowed them to. You see where I'm going with that? But if
Right.
you're very direct to the point and go, we're going to do this, we're going to guide them through this process, and you control the conversation, you're the expert.
Right.
So, one of the things that people want to ask, because I get it all the time, they're like, dude, how's she doing it? How's she able to sell at that clip while being pregnant, while feeling the hormone changes, while, you got to watch your kids as well. How do you structure it all?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't have a set schedule, which sounds pretty crazy, right? I'm a mom of three. I have a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old now. Our 3-year-old is full-time at daycare.
Okay.
Maddox and Blake are old enough to where I tell them, okay, I'm gonna lock in from, for example, 8 a.m. till noon. Afternoon, we'll go to the park. I do set those expectations for them. Be good. After I dial, my goal is to get 1 to 2. And I already have that mindset coming in when I lock in and dial. I know for a fact I can get at least one out per day, right?
Right.
So the way I do that is I sit down and I'm not scrolling on Instagram. Like that has been such a big changer for me because when we came back and we started with you guys, SkyPoint, like I would be on social media all the time. So I limit myself on social media. I put my phone down. Unless it's an emergency, then of course I look at it. But other than that, I really lock in. I dial. If I try to book appointments for the evening if I can. If not, then I'll schedule it for the following day in the morning. But really just mindset wise, like I already tell myself, like I got when I have to help a family today, then I can be mom. Like I can do mom things with my kids. Because if not, then at that point, they lose it because they could only watch or do things for a certain amount of time, especially right now they're on summer break. So I have to play both parts, businesswoman, but also a mom. And
Right.
there's no, we all get that like guilt mom trip we talked about before.
Right.
Like, how do I get better at being a business person, but how can I be present with my kids? In this business, there's no answer to it. You just kind of have to play it by ear and figure it out as you go. Um, but that's pretty much what I do, Stephen. Like, I'm locked in. I dial, and the moment for most of my calls, they're one call close, which I'm lucky for that. If there is a part where I have to like get the banking because they don't have it, or for with these veterans, more than likely a lot of my calls they do pick up if I schedule an appointment. Just because they don't have a checkbook. I mean, I try to give them like, okay, if you don't have your checkbook, do you have a mobile app? If they keep saying no, 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 then I'll be like, okay, the last thing what we can do is, get on a 3-way call. I'll mute myself and confirm your routing and account number. If they don't feel comfortable with that, I've actually closed probably 2 with the crank wheel. But other than that, like I'll reschedule and they'll get that information for me and I've closed them before.
Got it.
Um, but just really locking in and setting like that time frame, just dial time. Like
Right.
no distractions. I'm just dialing and that's it.
Like you said so many good parts in that, right? Because here's what I've noticed with a lot of people. They can block out 8 to 12 to dial, but they're not dialing.
Mhm.
Like, let's call it what it is. They're not dialing. They're like you said, I call it reading emails. You call it scrolling through social media. They're doing anything but dialing. It's called avoidance behavior. Anything they can do to avoid the actual duty of dialing, right? And even when they dial like this. They go, whatever the phone number is, they click call, client doesn't answer, they take a 2 minute break, then they call another client 3 minutes later, right? That one hung up on them. So they're like, ooh, that one hurt, got to go get water. They go get water. In 10 minutes, they made 3 calls. And I'm like, you didn't dial. You see what I mean? Like, compared to you lock it in, going, no, no, no. I only have 8 to 12 because I got to go be mom. So, like, during this 8 to 12, I got to lock in, meaning like I can look at social media later, but right now I got to call. So, like, you're like, I'm pounding the phone, right? On to the next, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, because you have to get it done in that time slot. See, like, this is why I hate it when people ask me this question. They go, how many hours do you work? I go, I don't know. Like, I don't have a set schedule. I don't work from 8 in the morning until 6 at night. Like, I don't do that. I don't think anybody does that. That's a top performer. Because here's what's crazy. Someone can go, I dialed from 8 to 6 today, and you can dial from 8 to 12 and be more productive than them. Because it has nothing to do with hours. It has everything to do with amount of dials, amount of presentations. So if you make more calls in a 4 hour time frame than they do in a 10, you win.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like it's why I'm like, there's so many like myths about like when you hear people like, I worked all day today. I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, why do you lie to yourself like that? You know? And so like I just wanted to hit on that because I'm like, if any of you guys actually follow the Telegram group, her sales always come from 8 to 12. All of them. It's almost like, oh, Brenda started the day for everybody else. And then Thomas is the one that finishes it because he's in Hawaii, right? But it's like, it's almost guaranteed we know it. It's so predictable because you have your schedule. And you go, I don't really have a schedule, but you do. Because
Mhm.
you're like, from 8 to 12, I'm doing this. And then from 12 to later, I'm going to be mom. And then I'll come back toward the later part of the day because we always see each other on Zoom, right?
Mhm.
Like you don't have a schedule, but you do. It's more than most. You know, you said
Right.
something earlier that like made me very interested. Like I wanted to comment on this. You're like, I battle mom guilt because sometimes I got to put professional businesswoman hat on, and then it's like I got to put, mom hat on, and it's like, here's what I'm going to tell you. So and you were like, I don't think you can find it. Like everybody just deals with that, right? So it's true because like I had that issue too. Up until the point where like after I sold my business, you can ask you now, like I had the most guilt possible. I'm like, I'm fucking crushing it in business. Like I'm making more money than I've ever made, but I feel like disconnected with my kids because I'm chasing I'm chasing this business for them to have a better future, but I'm also losing them in the present.
Mhm.
Right. And so like it was crazy because I'd hired this, coach and we were talking and on the second session I had, he said the most profound thing I've ever heard. He was like, rank yourself, dad, father, husband, business owner, coach. He's like, rank them. And I was like, uh, dad's one, husband's two, you know, business owners three, you know, basketball coach four. I don't know. He goes, you're wrong. He goes, that's your problem. He goes, that's the reason why you keep struggling with your identity. And I'm like, so what is this supposed to be? He goes, father is 1A, husband's 1B, business owner is 1C, basketball coach is 1D. He goes, it's just who you are. They don't outrank one another. And he goes, and once you understand that's just who you are as a person, Stephen Yee, the basketball coach, is the same Stephen Yee as the business owner, as the dad and the husband. You're the same person. It's who you are. If I took one of those things away from you, that's no longer your identity. And I was like, damn, that's true.
Mhm.
And so once I accepted that, Brenda, life was so much easier, because we battled this constant. Like Janelle says, we lose ourselves in the process of being there for our kids because you're a mom. So you give up your dreams and goals for them. Well, who says you have to? Right? Like that's the beauty of this. And so like once we understand those things and we can accept it and go, no, no, no. Brenda's a mom just like she is a badass businesswoman. I don't know what you're talking about. No one says you got to pick, right? It's kind of like when we say there's $100 bill and a $50 bill, what do you take? The answer is both. No one said you had to take one. The answer is both, right? So I love that. I want to go into a little bit more sales training before we open it up for some Q&A. Objections, sales objections, right? Toward the end of the call, we usually have three or four of them. Got
Mhm.
to talk to my kids or my spouse. Got to think about it. Banking, social. How do you overcome that? What is your script or what is your word tracks to overcome those very things? So, like, let's say it's social, right? We get to social and I go, I don't want to give that to you, right? Like, how do you overcome that?
So I do it a little different. So before I even ask for social, I kind of want to build rapport. So I'll be like, okay, Stephen, how long were you in service for? A lot of them, they'll tell you they love speaking, they love
Mhm.
talking, so let them speak. I've been in service for 9 years. Oh, beautiful, awesome. And then I'll compliment and then, okay, perfect. And then where were you stationed at last? Oh, I was here, here, here. For example, a lot of them say like San Diego. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and note that here on file. Now, what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and pull up your MIB report. It's gonna be all your past prescriptions. Anything that you've been prescribed will show up on record for your approval. What is your social?
Mhm.
7 6 blah 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 blah. For the most part, that's not even a battle. It's the way I'm presenting it,
Right.
right? Um, for if they do say, okay, I don't feel comfortable because I've been scammed, you'll get a few of those like random ones. I'll use Crankwheel or I'll text them, be like, all right, Stephen, I completely understand you've been scammed before. I want you to be extremely comfortable on this call. This is for you to get a life insurance policy. God forbid something were to happen to you. Janelle is, she won't be left with that burden. Does that make sense? So I
Yeah.
texted you a photo of your application. I do have to put your social to pull all your past prescriptions for your approval. Let me know when you receive that text message. They'll see the Americal like blank social. I
Mhm.
was like, if I don't put your social to verify your MIB report, I can't move past your application. Do you see that on there?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, and then they'll give me their social. So there's a few ways around it, but I've the more repetitive and presentations you do, the more comfortable you get. I used to get very, very nervous, and I'm sure everybody did too. Like my heart would start beating, my palms would sweat, and I'm like, why am I getting nervous for trying to help them? Even with banking, why are we so afraid of asking them for
Right.
these little like to help them out? So I overcame that maybe 2 months after really working the vet leads in the beginning. I would breathe and I would also keep in mind like my tonality like would be the same. Don't make it weird because if you make it weird, they're gonna feel weird. Like energy flows, and I never understood that until I actually started understanding that. So if you make things weird over the call, they're gonna feel that. Like, well, I'm not gonna give you that,
Right. When
right?
you how often, that's the other question that I'll ask. How often do you get social objections now? On 10 calls, let's just say 10 presentations, how frequent do you get a social objection?
One.
Exactly. Let me explain why. Because the new agent on here is like taking hard notes on the social objection because they get it on half their damn calls. You know why they get it half of their calls? You just said it. They make it weird as shit because it's awkward for them. Because they're like, I wouldn't give my social to someone. Why would they give it to me? This is what they're thinking about in their mind. So when they ask for it, they go, what's your social security number? And they're
Right.
like, and like you said, energy's felt. So they're like, I ain't giving it to you. Compared to like you, it's like rudimentary. You're like, hey, where were you born? Where were you stationed? Got it. Hey, what's your social? Like it's not a big deal. So because it's not a big deal for you, it's not a big deal for them.
Mhm.
But when you make it a big deal, it is a big deal. You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's why I love it because I'm like, we used to say it all the time. Like It was the weirdest thing and it was the worst thing ever. Like I remember when I was a brand new agent, I would always ask like Andrew and all these guys that sold a lot of insurance. I'm like, how do you overcome this? And they're like, we don't get that. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't get that? Like I get it on every freaking call, right? And they're like, it's because you suck. And they're like, you want to know when you'll stop getting that? And I'm like, when? They're like, when you stop sucking. And that's the truth. And then what was crazy was I started doing sales training, and then they're like, hey, how do you overcome social objection? And I'm like, I don't get social objection. How do I overcome that? I'm like, I've never had that issue. But then it's because, like we said, tone, pace, all that stuff, right? Um, what do you do about future draft dates?
Future draft dates.
Hmm.
I always tell them, for example, I'll be like, okay, you went with the bronze packet. So that's going to be drafting in 24 to 48 hours. America will pull that draft out of your account. Who do you bank with?
Okay. And
I
I
don't
was like,
even really like say it until they're like, well, and I'm like, is it because you don't have funds? Or if they try to back out, I'm like, is it because of the funds? You don't have those available? You did get the immediate coverage, but if you don't have the funds available, we can push it back till XYZ, right?
mhm,
But for the most part, I always try to do immediate drafts because, as you know, when you push it out, for the most part, they could either bounce back, insufficient funds, if they're on social, it just depends every every client.
yeah,
But my ultimate goal, obviously, you want them to get the immediate coverage, not just for them to be covered, but you also get paid.
right.
So,
It's funny you say that because here's the statistics. People want to argue it all day long. America has literally pulled the numbers. Business that's future draft date have a higher chargeback rate. It is what it is. And people go, oh, but I'm future draft dating it to the date their social security comes in. Yeah, and it's still going to charge back. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, if they only receive $1,200 now, and they're supposed to get it every third of the month, and it's the 22nd, and they don't have the money, it just means that you're going to take $200 from something else.
mm,
You know what I mean? And that's what people don't understand. It's like, and the word tracks they use, like you said, hey, the way the insurance company is going to work is they're going to take the first payment within 24 to 48 hours. Who do you bank with? I've literally like on our Zoom, people are like, so you've been approved. When do you want this to come out? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you just killed yourself. You know what I mean? And I'm like, now you're gonna get paid in like 27 days from now, and you're gonna be, yeah, Daniel was like suicide. Like you're gonna be broke until then. And like keep in mind for those of you that are brand new, write this down. Your sole job is to be in business next week. You can't be in business next week if you put draft dates out nonstop. You can't, right? So I love that. How do you deal with talk to kids, talk to spouse, got to think about it. What do you do in that sense?
when they tell me I have to think about it, and I'll be very transparent with them. Sometimes I could sound like Janelle said, like, very direct. I'm like, what is there to think about? I mean, you did get approved. I'm actually surprised you even got approved because of your diabetes with a miracle, depending on the carrier. I'll throw that back at them and make them feel like, oh snap, like you're right. And it just depends. If they say like a spouse, I would just be like, okay, I'm married as well. I don't think your wife would be upset. God forbid something were to happen to you. You have coverage. It would pay her out the 20,000 in coverage. Would you agree with that? And it kind of gets them to think like, you know what, you're right. And I was like, I don't like to even use the 30-day look period, but if it's needed at times, I'll be like, look it, we can modify it within 30 days as long as you have that 30-day look period. If you want to increase, I always say start with the lowest because it's better to increase it instead of decreasing it. And at this point, you do have those 30 days. So if I were you, I would do something lower that's closer to your budget. And in the future, you want to increase that, then we can do that. And that saved me so many policies. And till this day, it's in my books. So
Yeah,
um
I
there's
like
so
that.
many ways you kind of just have to go through those fails too, Stephen. Like I've learned because before I would just be so quick to be like, oh, okay, and then I would hang up.
Right.
And like I'll be like, what the heck did I do that? And I would catch myself too. I'll be like, oh, I could have said this or I could have said that. And I mean, I would still dial them a week from today and like I would try to close them again because I had all their info. Um, or I'll be like, hey, it's Brenda, the consultant you spoke to a week ago. Just wanted to recap on. I understand, you said you wanted to think about it. Is your wife available at the moment? Kind of go about it and pitch in a different direction. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much what I would do with spouses. I just kind of throw if they say like, oh, I want my wife as a beneficiary, and then their health, there's a little bit of health issues, I throw that back to them to
You
make
have
it
to.
a reality because it's so
Mhm.
true. I actually got on a call when I started doing CRM leads, and I called this vet lead, and it was very similar to that conversation. I need to speak to my wife. Maybe like 2 weeks later, I called back. The wife picked up, and he had passed away. And I felt so guilty because I'm like, if I would have called him a week earlier, would he have gotten coverage and the wife would have been protected? Like, you're gonna come across these like real stories, and it kind of makes you feel like really crappy inside because if I would have tried harder, the wife would have been protected, you
Yeah.
know?
It's funny you say that because everybody thinks that when we do these training calls, they're like, that's not real. They're making that up. I'm like, yeah, until it happens to you.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, true story. In Rancho, where you guys live, I booked an appointment for, I still remember their name, which is crazy. I'm not going to drop it though. Michael and Susan, I didn't even know their last name. I booked an appointment. It's a final expense lead. Setting an appointment. I'm like, hey, um, you know, wife answers. I'm like, Michael, right? And she's like, no, this is Susan. I'm like, hey, Susan, I'm looking for Michael. I'm getting back to about the form you sent back in to pay for funeral and burial expenses. And she's like, Michael, this is for you, right? And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a laydown, right? So I set the appointment, and I was like, hey, we have an agent that's gonna be out in your area, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, what works better? He picks 10. And I'm like, the guy that's coming out, his name is Joe, former US Air Force, great guy, you'll be in good hands. So they were like, awesome, can't wait to see him. In my mind, I'm like, this is a done deal. Like, I already know it's sold before like Joe even has to get there. Joe gets to the house the following day at 9:45. He walks up to the porch. Kid walks, like, pushes through the screen gate. He goes, who the fuck are you? To Joe. And Joe's like, what the hell? He was like, uh, I'm Joe. I have an insurance appointment with Michael and Susan. He goes, that's my dad. He just died of a heart attack 30 minutes ago.
Wow.
And like, I remember that because I don't remember all the calls I made, but I remember that call because I was like, oh my gosh. Another story. We used to get leads throughout the week, but we would never call them until the weekend because we would run travel trips or whatever it is, right? Lead came in on a Tuesday. We did not call them. Called them on Thursday to set an appointment for Saturday. Right? He was my first appointment on Saturday. I go to the appointment, and like, if you know anything about weekend appointments, they're either there and it's a lay down in the morning, or they're not there because they're sleeping in, and you just waste your time, right? So I get to the guy's house at 8. He's not home. He's like, I'm around the corner. I'll be back, and like, I'll be here in like 5 minutes. I pulled up. He pulls up, and he's like calm as hell with a Bible in his hand, just calm. He's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, that's weird. We walk in, we sit down, and he goes, um, thanks for coming, but you can't help me. And I'm like, yeah, I can. Like, I can insure anybody over the age of 18 up to age 89, like, even if they have like really bad illnesses. He goes, your girl called on Thursday. Friday, I felt kind of weird, went to the hospital, did a check. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Got the lead on Tuesday, by the way. And if we would have called them Tuesday, Wednesday, got him insured, he would have, his family would have had a death benefit check because it was before the
Okay.
test.
Yeah, very true.
You know what I mean? And so like, I watch people on Zoom, and they're like, when a client gives them a soft objection, they fall into it. They're like, okay, fine, I'll call you next week. And like, one of our Andrew and Paul, like they taught me this early on. They're like, if you knew your client would die tomorrow, how hard would you close them today? Like if you knew they were going to die tomorrow, like they would not wake up tomorrow, their family is completely screwed. How hard would you close them today? If they gave you a simple, oh, I need to think about it, would you push through it? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. They're like, so you think that you don't know? He was like, you play God, you know they're gonna die tomorrow. I was like, I don't. He was like, then push.
Yeah.
We used to have this saying, like, you're either getting thrown out of the house or you're getting an app. Like that was our rule.
That's funny you say that. I had a client before we started with you. It was a tough call, by the way. He was very rude, and he was just like, I did the intro beneficiary. He said he wanted to put his wife as a beneficiary. Once we get to like the banking, he was like, you know what? I want to think about it. I was like, well, what is there to think about? Like you've been approved. Um, XYZ. He's like, well, I'm not too sure. And I was like, he said something like, I don't know if my wife would be okay with this. And I was like, oh, you must not love your wife.
Ooh,
And he was like, well, you're right. I love her sometimes. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean you love her sometimes? Like, how you guys been together for many years? Because we started that conversation in the
right.
beginning, right? He told me a little bit about him. He was a talker. So I felt comfortable enough to telling him that, like, okay, you must not love your wife. He's like, well, I love her sometimes. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And then he was like, well, like sometimes she's annoying. He was just like straightforward. And sometimes I do love her. And I was like, well, I think I said something like, if I was your wife, I would hate to be married to you, something like that. And then he was like, well, I forgot how he worded it, but pretty much he was like, you know what? You're right. I've been with her for XYZ years. And then I was like, well, look, let's do this. And then I did the 30-day look period. And I actually looked at my Americo app because I did want to bring this conversation up. And I was telling Daniel, this guy's still on my books till today. And I did it in 2024. He was one of my few like early vet leads.
Yep.
And I felt comfortable enough to like speak to him that way because I was like, this is reality. If you die tomorrow, now I understand your house is paid, but you're going to leave that burden to your wife, Kathy. Like you must not love her. If
Right.
you got already approved, why wouldn't you take advantage and utilize that life insurance policy instead of her coming out of pocket, getting a loan or getting it out of your savings account? And when you do get very emotional with the client or realistic with them, that's when like you have that connection. And even though you might come off a little like harsh, those are the clients that actually end up staying on your books the longer.
Yep.
So,
Here's what we know. The hard ones will stay. The easy ones let anybody in, they won't buy. That's a fact. So like have you ever heard of the apply decline method that we use to make people do in the home?
no.
Oh, so like we can't do it on the phone. That's why we don't teach it. When I used to get in the home and people would need to think about it, we're like, no, 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 you can't think about it. You either have to apply or decline, sign it. It's on the financial inventory for a reason. On the very bottom, it says, I accept or decline my insurance options.
Mm.
And we were like, and people were like, why? Because I would make them. Like, I'm not coming back. They pay me to bring it out once. So you're either going to apply for it or decline. So like people would literally go, I don't want to decline. Then I'm like, then you got to apply. And they're like, well, I don't want to apply. I'm like, then you got to decline. I don't care. Right. And that's where the whole I'm not your son, spouse, significant other came from. I'm not your son. I'm not your spouse. Like if you died, nothing happens to me, but they're screwed. And I point to them. Right. And so a lot of people would apply. Here's the craziest part. Once we went back and looked at our book, the people that we forced them to, if you even want to say that, like 75% of them kept it.
Mhm.
And like, here's what I like when I shared that with Sean, he goes, of course they kept it. And I'm like, why? He goes, dude, people like being told what to do. And he goes, and as uncomfortable as it was for them, they did it. Now they can mark that box off and they go, at least I'm covered. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. While I think I'm being pushy, he's like, no, you're actually not being pushy at all. You're guiding them to make a decision for their family. And what was crazy was toward the end of it, like when I was selling insurance in the field, the amount of people that are like, we're so glad you made us apply. As I would walk out of their house and they would fight me on it. And like 20 minutes earlier, they were fighting me on it. And then, like, as we're done leaving the house, they're giving me a hug, giving me a water. And they're like, we're so glad you made us do that. It's the craziest thing ever, which is why I'm like, for those of you that are new, stop listening to what they're saying because it's all smoke screens. If you really think they need to think about it, if you really think they need to talk to the kids, you're full of yourself. That's not true. Like I would tell people all the time, oh, I need to talk to my kids about it. I'm like, did you talk to your kids when you went grocery shopping last week? That's really weird. Did you talk to your kids when you opened your cell phone bill? No. Then why do you need to talk to your kids about this? And people are like, you say that? I'm like, but it makes sense though. You know what I mean? And that's what we're trying to get to. So we have a question. Amin asks, how do you show options? Do you show three options, top down? How do you explain it? What do you do when you show options?
Yeah, so I do show three options. So I'll do like the bronze, the platinum, the gold packet. I'll break it down. If they're looking for your basic, uh, burial, it'll be 15 to 20,000. So I'll do a 15, 20, 25, or go a little higher depending on their budget too, right? Because of
Do you
their,
go bottom up or top down?
I go top down.
Okay. So you go 25, 20, and then 15 when you show options?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I do go vice versa, the other way around. So just depends. Um, and then I'll be like, okay, out of these three options, which one works most within your budget? Would you say the bronze, the gold, or the platinum? Obviously, I'll give them the okay, this is a whole life. Price will never increase or decrease over time. Give them the benefits and then pitch them the product, right? Oh, I prefer the platinum. Okay, perfect. So the platinum, it's a total of 15,000 natural. With a miracle, it doubles an accidental. Give them the benefits again, and I make sure they write it too. And then from there, they're like, okay, yes, that one. Okay, who do you bank with? Right away. It's immediate coverage. It's going to go to effect immediately within 24, 48 hours. Who do you bank with, Stephen?
Chase.
Chase, perfect. Okay. I do see here we've used Chase before, routing numbers, blah, 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 blah. Is that accurate? Is that the same one you have?
Hmm.
And then they'll be like, yes, that's the same one. Okay, beautiful. What's the account number you'd like to use? I just really dive in straight to it. And there's no like real pause where I'm being questioned. Like I mentioned, if you make it weird, it's gonna be weird. You
Hmm.
have to be the one guiding them and just feel very confident on like, I'm helping you close this, getting you a life insurance policy. And then once they give me account number, I'll be like, okay, perfect. So you're gonna receive that last 6-digit code with Americo. Go back to your text message. It's gonna be a 877 number, six numbers. It'll say authorization code. Let me know when you receive that. I mean, it even gets to the point where if they have an iPhone or Android, you have to be extremely patient because they're older, they don't they don't know anything about technology nowadays. So you have to just guide them, be patient, and be present.
Ooh, I love that. All right. We're wrapping up. One question from me, and I want you to free flow it to the end. Let's say all these people are on your team and they go, Brenda, like, I'm a parent, I'm a mom, I'm a dad too, but they're struggling to do this business because of their kids. And I look at it going, no, you have to do this business because of your kids, right? What is your advice on being able to do this business while being a parent, while being, spouse, while being all the other hats you wear? What is your final piece of advice for them? Because they're like, I don't have time. I don't have this, right? Like, and we all know it's BS. So what is your last piece of advice for them as we wrap this up?
I would say, obviously, everybody has gone through the 9 to 5. If you have kids or you're about to be a parent, you are going to miss those milestones, the beginning early, but you're sacrificing for what is now. They're not going to remember later on all that time you did sacrifice. For example, for us, with our son Zane, he's there full time, but we're here actually, grinding. Daniel's working. Just lock in your time, sacrifice 2, 3 years to build your agency or your ultimate goal. Everybody's goal is going to be different, but know what your goal is. And it is going to take time. You are going to fail. You are going to go through these emotions, ups, downs. You're not going to get a sale every day, but you have to be present to your goal because that's what's going to make you grow as a person and for your business. So don't give up on yourself. Keep pushing, buy leads. Don't just, you get paid and, invest on your leads because that's what's going to keep your business open the next day and going to give you the opportunity to make more money and help more families. So I would say set goals, be intentional, which with every single call, with every single client. Um, if you're a woman, reach out to women like ladies that are killing it. If you're a male, reach out to those people because you guys are really lucky to be here. We were in a different, group before with FFL. It was very different. Here, it feels right. And I'm just saying this from my heart. Like everybody here is so helpful. So reach out to those right people. You know, join Telegram, be involved, congratulate people on there because the more you congratulate, you're feeding off that energy too. Even though you're not next to that person closing the deal, but you're on Zoom and you could feel the energy. In the mornings, like start your mornings off right. Like for me, I pray, I'm present with the kids. I take Pilates at 6 a.m., 2 to 3 days. I try to do 3 days, but find something that's going to help you already have a win. If it's taking a walk in the morning, if it's going to the gym, if it's praying, find your reason to make that morning already count like you won already. Because like I mentioned, with this business, you're going to get 2, 3 sales every day or a day, or you might not get none. It's a hit or miss. It's how bad do you want it? For me, if you're a mom and you're on here, what truly helped me is I'm intentional with every single call. And it took me a while to get to that. So just be very cautious of your time because time we can never get back. And your mind is the most powerful thing. So just whatever you're feeding on a daily basis, like be very cautious of that too. Like social media can be very draining. So if you're looking at these like drama, negative things, like that's what's going to be in your life. If you're listening to podcasts, like Daniel listens to podcasts every day and like YouTube videos, like learn your business, learn how people are approaching clients, learn what leads are working. Um, find your way of find your way of find your way of being yourself on that call with the client and just be authentic. You don't have to sound like a robot. Just be you. Like I'm not perfect. I'm still learning from others. I'm still learning from even the way Daniel, my husband, sells, the way Steven, the way Janelle sells, the way Wyatt sells. Everybody sells different, but everybody can also do it. So I think that's like the biggest thing,
I love it.
what I have to
That
say.
that was the biggest mic drop that we've had. Here and we'll wrap up with this, guys. And if you don't believe this, then like I think you need to like find out if you're in the right industry or not. The worst day in insurance is still better than any best day at a job. And if you don't believe that, then I'm like, then go stay at that job. Shit, I won't pass, hard pass, right? Like, okay, I dialed for 8 hours and I didn't get a sale today. That's fine. And people get mad about that. I'm like, yeah, but you go work a job for 2 weeks and don't get paid until 2 weeks. You gave them 80 hours for free. Like you're mad about giving 8 today. Like stop it. Have some real perspective and actually know what we do. You know what I mean? So Brenda, I appreciate you. Looking forward to you getting to 40, 50, 60 grand a month. Guys, hey, this upcoming Wednesday, National Life Group, Devin Martin will be on our call talking about their new product, the Flex Life IUL. I know they already have one, but they made updates to it only for the better. And they're going to talk about how we can increase having our approval rates with them so we can actually get business through. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brenda. And as
Thank you.
always, we'll see you at the top.